Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm WoWcrendor and welcome to Christmas with Crendor. I wanted to make a video today, but I didn't know what to make, and I was like, you know what we need? We need a nice, calm Christmas evening video. So I went to the fire in the Goldshire Inn. I was gonna go to the one in the what's that dwarf place called? It's the equivalent of Goldshire for Dunmorrow. Caranos. I went to the Caranos Inn. The annoying part about the Caranos Inn is every like 10 seconds some dwarf is like bah, ha, 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 ha. And it's very loud, and I was like, I don't think we can go here. So I went to the Goldshire one. Nice big fire, good fire sounds in the background. I like it a lot. Perfect ASMR. By the way, I've started up an ASMR channel. Well, I revived my ASMR channel. Good night, Crendor. If you like ASMR, if you like WoW ASMR, I've been making some WoW ASMR there if you want to check that out. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. But I thought, you know what we should do? We should read some Christmas stories. So, I found a couple of Christmas stories. There's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, because I read that a while ago. But I don't really remember it. Like, there's the movie and everything, but I was like, I want to read the book again. Was the Night Before Christmas. I wanted to read that again because that's like one of those things where you read it and then you're like, okay, like we read it, but it was so long ago, or you're a kid that you don't really remember it. I kind of want to analyze it a bit, which I know could destroy the mood of like, let me tell you a tale. But like, you know, I want to read these stories because I'm like, all right, let's hear some stuff, you know, and. Hold on, Christmas stories. Are there any other Christmas stories? 6 Christmas stories of wonder and love. Wonder and love. Page isn't loading. 10 free famous Christmas short stories. Alright, I'll keep this up for after we read these. So yeah, just sit back, relax, put this on your television, your computer, your Amazon Fire Stick, your Alexa, play Crendor video. You know, put it on whatever. Get something to drink and chill out. So let's begin with How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss' 1957 children's book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Wow, 1957. It's actually a long time ago. I didn't know it was that old. I thought it was like the 70s. Okay. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. Why not? He's got to have a reason. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. That's gotta cause some cardiovascular issues. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm-lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a holly Who wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find a way to keep Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, I know all the Who girls and boys will wake bright and early. They'll rush for their toys. And then, oh the noise, noise. There's one thing I hate. Oh the noise. They'll stand closer together with Christmas bells ringing. They'll stand hand in hand, and those who wait, is this him? Oh, I guess it is him reading. And they'll stand hand in hand, and those Whos will start singing. Fa-hoo, forays, da-hoo, dorays, welcome Christmas, come this way. Fa-hoo, forays, da-hoo, dorays, welcome Christmas, Christmas Day. I mean, I'd be pretty annoyed too if they were shouting that in the street. Welcome, oh, it keeps going. Fa-hoo, Ramus, ooh, welcome, da-hoo, Damus. Christmas Day in our grasp, so long as we have hands to clasp. Fa-hoo, forays, da-hoo, dorays, and they'll sing, and they'll sing, and they'll sing, sing, sing.
Sing!
And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas Sing, the more the Grinch thought,
I must stop this whole thing.
I mean, I'm with the Grinch on this one. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it.
Now I must stop Christmas from coming. But how?
Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea.
I know just what to do.
The Grinch laughed in his throat.
I'll make a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. This is stop number 1,
the old Grinchy Claus hissed as he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a minute or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings hung all in a row.
These stockings, he grinched, are the first things to go.
Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. It was 1:15, all the Who's still in bed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, their wrappings, their snoof and their fuzzles, their tringlers and trappings. 10,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it.
Pooh-pooh the Who's, he was grinchily humming. They're finding out now no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up, I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear.
He paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But this wasn't sad. Why, this sound was glad. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came, somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling.
How could it be so?
It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the true meaning of Christmas came through. And the Grinch found the strength of 10 Grinches plus 2. That's a lot of Grinches. And now that his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. With a smile to his soul, he descended Mount Crumpet, cheerily blowing hoo-hoo on his trumpet. He rode into Whoville. He brought back their toys. He brought back their floof to the Who girls and boys. He brought back their snoof and their tringlers and fuzzles. Brought back their pantukas, their dafflers and wuzzles. He brought back everything, all the food for a feast. And he, himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Welcome, Christmas, bring your cheer. Cheer to all Who's, far and near. Christmas Day is in our grasp, so long as we have hands to grasp. Christmas Day will always be, just as long as we have we. Welcome, Christmas, while we stand, heart to heart and hand in hand. And that's it. That's how the Grinch stole Christmas. I actually expected more. I thought he did like a lot more than that, man. Huh. I mean, I'd say like 75% of Christmas is people buying stuff and opening presents. Like, honestly, and then the stores start celebrating Christmas in like September because they're trying to make money, but they're still celebrating it. I guess it just depends how you're celebrating it when you think about that. Like, really, let's analyze this, alright? So he doesn't like Christmas. Why doesn't he like Christmas? Alright, so all the Who's down in Whoville liked it a lot, but the Grinch lives north of Whoville, doesn't like it. Well, why doesn't he like it? They say it could be because his shoes were too tight. Well, take off your shoes. Could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. Oh, that sounds like they're judging him. You know, like, his head's just not on right. You know, like, maybe he just doesn't like Christmas. Like, it's alright. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just who he is. He's kind of like Squidward, actually, when you think about it. But really, I want to know why he didn't like it before. Does he just enjoy watching people suffer or something? Is he like a psychotic person? I don't know. Well, I guess because his heart's 2 sizes too small. But even then, That's just, he's like, that's got to cause so many health issues. Like, maybe that's why he's so mad. He's just got constant health issues. You know what? I relate to that too. And then, you know, he just takes all the presents, and then they're like, hey, you know, we got each other. And that's the moral of the story, is they got each other, they're happy, they're doing their thing, and then he's like, hey, I see it. But then his small heart grew 3 sizes. So it's 2 times too small, and now it's too big. That still can't be healthy. Now he's got an enlarged heart. Huh. And he's, well, that's how the Grinch stole Christmas. He didn't really steal it, though. Okay. So next up, we have 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. A classic, if you will. Let me drink something. Alright. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled, all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wonderings eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. Now I think about it, you would think the reindeer would be like, you know, big, like powerful reindeer for rolling with the sleigh, you know. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name.
Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer, now Vixen, Uncommon, Uncupid, Undonner, Unblitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all.
Sounds like a... oh God, it sounds like a rap. Or like a little John song.
To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all.
If not, there you go. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly. Wait, as dry leaves that before the world... Wait. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. I said soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose was like a cherry, his droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk. And laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. You'd think he'd say Merry Christmas, not Happy Christmas. Even, like, come on, Santa. Merry Christmas. Alright. Again, I remember little bits and pieces of that, but a lot of it was like, I feel like a third of that was just describing Santa. You know? Alright, I'm gonna analyze this one again. So I just have to. Okay, so it's the night before Christmas. Okay, this part's all fine. Alright, everybody's asleep. Well, the children are all nestled in their beds, and visions of sugar plums are dancing in their heads. Like, what is a sugar plum? Everybody's always said that, like, the sugar plums dance in their head. What's a sugar plum? Sugar plum recipes. These are a real thing. A sugar plum is a piece of dragée or hard candy made of hardened sugar in small, round, or oval shape. Why do you have dreams about sugar plums? It's like just dreaming about candy. Huh. Well, I guess... I don't know. I never had a dream about candy when I was a kid. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Mama in her kerchief. What is a kerchief again? Is that like the... Kerchief. Oh, it's one of those things. It's like over there. It's like just look it up. You'll see. And I in my cap. Oh yeah, people used to wear caps too, like a nightcap. It's kind of weird. I guess it was colder then because you didn't have heating and stuff, so you had to wear stuff like that. But can you imagine that? Like you're just sitting there getting ready to go to sleep, and then you hear like stuff happening on your lawn. And you're like, oh god, what's going on outside? And then you look, and there's just like some dude riding in a sled. And he just crashes by your house, like, hey, and you're like, oh my god. What if you didn't want presents? What if you're like, we got too much stuff, Santa, and he's like, but I got these presents for you, and you're like, no, I'm trying to minimalize. If you could just like go to the next house, like, all right. Let's see. And then yeah, the 8 tiny reindeer. Why are they tiny? Again, with a little old driver, and that's the other thing. Why is Santa so old? Like, what did he do when he was young? And if Santa can age, does that mean he's gonna die? Or does he just keep getting older? Or like, will he age forever? Will he just become a skeleton at some point that keeps going? Like, I know everybody's like, Crendor, it's not real. Well, speak for yourself. It's just one of those things where I just question it, you know? Yeah. Like, listen, we're gonna question the Star Wars lore. Let's question the Santa lore. I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. Okay, more rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Okay, so his reindeer are named Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen. I'm curious to why he named them that, or if there's somebody that knows that, or how they came up with those names. And if you mix those names up, it doesn't have the same flow. Like, what if you're like, now Comet, now Cupid, now Prancer, and Dancer, on Donner, and Blitzen, and Dasher, and Oh. It would have, the last two have to rhyme. Like, if you're like, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Donner, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Blitzen, it doesn't have the same flow. So does Santa, like, always say the same thing? Does he mix it up? So they go to the top of the porch, the top of the wall. Dash away, dash away, dash away, all.
Dash away, dash away, dash away, all.
It just reminds me of like,
give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away now.
As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane. I still don't know what this means. As dry leaves that before the. Oh, as dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly. That's such a weird sentence. When they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. Yeah, I guess it's true. So up to the housetop, the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. So I drew in my hand, was turning around down the chimney, St. Nicholas came bound. So he's dressed in all fur. Where do you get that fur from? Like, did he have to like kill some stuff up in the North Pole, like go hunting? Or is it fake fur? His clothes were tarnished. Like, I don't... Like, if you can become ageless, I feel like you could figure out a way to not have ashes and soot be on your clothes. You know, you could probably develop something, especially in modern times. He's got a bundle of toys on his back. And... look like a peddler. Okay. And then, yeah, it's just like a description of Santa. But, like, he's... like, from everything they describe, he's got a pipe in his mouth, so he's smoking. That's not good for his heart. His belly is round, which is like... it shakes like a bowl full of jelly. He's probably, like, you know, smoking. Obese, probably on his way, like, the early onset diabetes. Which, at this point, like, Santa can do whatever he wants, right? Because he's not gonna die. Because I don't know. He's chubby and plump, and a jolly right old elf. So he's an elf. So that means he's got to be an elf, right? Because he's got to be an elf because this story said he's an elf. It all makes sense. Maybe he's just an elf that became like the alpha elf, and then like now all the other elves do his bidding. That's kind of a weird twist to it. And then so he speaks not a word. He just does his thing, and then he leaves. And then he just said Happy Christmas, which, you know, you would think he'd say Merry Christmas. So overall, the story has a lot of flaws, but I mean, you know, it's a classic story. I'm really just bringing up the Christmas mood. All right, let's do one more of these. What is this? Open and okay. Here's 10 great Christmas stories for free. Let's see. Here's the 10 that they give. The Little Match Girl, A Christmas Carol. Oh, a Christmas Carol. So what do you call it? Little Piccola, The Other Wise Man, The Three Kings, The Boy with the Box, Little Gretchen, The Gift of the Magi, The Legend of Christmas, The Legend of Christmas. Oh, aren't these like long stories though? Like, isn't A Christmas Carol pretty long? Oh my God, yes it is. Not like long in terms of, you know, reading it for yourself, but like in terms of me reading it right now. It's got to be like it's got to be a pretty short one, right? Let's try this one. Christmas short stories. Yeah, let's see. Here we go. Here's a whole bunch of them. Oh, these are a lot of them. What do we got here? Uncle Richard's New Year Dinner. A Child's Christmas in Wales. Christmas at Feswig's Fair House by Charles Dickens. What is this? A raucous Christmas Eve ball featuring characters from A Christmas Carol. Alright, so I've been looking for another book to read, or a story, and I think I finally found one, which is The Sprig of Holly. The Sprig of Holly is about a dwarf who demands that Dora and Colin give him a year of their lives in exchange for the last piece of holly, which starts their negotiation. A fine lesson in refusing to settle a bargain rashly. Published in Stockton's collection, The Floating Prince and the Other Fairy Tales in 1910. So let's see, The Sprig of Holly. One Christmas, there was a great scarcity of holly in that part of the country where Colin and his little sister Dora lived. Everybody decorated their houses with Christmas greens, and as holly branches and berries were particular favorites that year, Colin and Dora wished very much to get some to put up among the clusters of evergreens which their father had arranged over the big fireplace in their parlor at home. But not a leaf or sprig of holly they could find. "I tell you, Dora," said Colin, "we are too late. All the people have been out here and have picked every bit of holly they could see. We ought to not have waited so long. It's almost Christmas now, and of course the persons who wanted holly came and got it a good while ago. I know one thing. I'm not going to put off picking holly next year. I'm going to come into these woods and see before anybody else." "Yes, indeed," said little Dora. They wanted so much to find some holly that they did not give up the search, although they had been wandering about so long. They had found an evergreen bush with some berries on it, but it was not holly. All at once, Colin saw a fine twig of holly with several great leaves and some berries as red as ripe cherries, waving gently about by the side of a great tree. It seemed as if it must be the only sprig on some little bush. Without saying a word, Colin dashed forward towards the big tree, followed closely by little Dora. But when they reached the holly, they found that it was not on a bush at all, but it was held by a little dwarf, who had been waving it over his head to attract their attention.
"Hello," cried the dwarf. "Don't you want a nice sprig of holly?"
Colin did not answer at first. He was too much astonished. And as for Dora, she stood close to her brother, holding tight to his hand. The dwarf did not appear to be big enough to do them any harm, but he was such a strange creature that it is no wonder Colin hesitated before speaking to him. He wore a high cap, a funny little coat, and his breeches and shoes and stockings were all in one piece and fitted very tightly indeed.
You do want some holly, don't you?
He said. Yeah, said Colin. I'd want some very much. We've been looking everywhere for it, but we couldn't find a bit.
There isn't any more of this,
said the dwarf.
There's the last sprig in the whole forest, and it's splendid too. There's been no holly like it in this country for years and years and years. Look what big leaves it has, and see how bright and shiny they are, and what a fine bunch of berries is on it. It's very different from that piece of bush you have in your hand. That's not holly.
I know it isn't, said Colin, but I thought it might do perhaps if we didn't find any real holly.
But it won't do,
said the dwarf.
Nothing will do for holly but holly. That's been settled long ago. You can have this if you'll pay me for it.
How much do you want? Asked Colin.
1 year of your life,
said the dwarf. If Colin and Dora were astonished before, they were ever so much more astonished now. What do you mean by that? Stammered Colin.
I mean that for 1 year you are to belong to me and do everything I tell you to do.
Why didn't he just say, like, you become my slave? I won't agree to that, said Colin, who had now recovered his spirits. It's too much to ask. Yes, indeed, said little Dora, clinging closer to her brother.
Well then,
said the dwarf.
What do you say to 6 months? I'll let you have the sprig for 6 months of your life.
No, answered Colin. That's too much, too.
How would a month suit you?
asked the dwarf.
That's not a long time.
Indeed, it is a long time, answered Colin. I should think it was a dreadfully long time if I had to do everything you told me to do for a month. Yes, indeed, said little Dora.
Well then,
said the dwarf.
Suppose I say a week. Nothing can be more reasonable than that. I'll let you have this splendid sprig of holly, the only one you can get anywhere, if you'll agree to belong to me for 1 week.
No, said Colin.
A day then, alright? A day, okay? You shit kids.
That's not the story, said the dwarf.
I'll let you have it if you'll be mine for 1 day.
Dude, this dwarf is like creepy as shit. He's just trying to make kids his slave, like what the shit. Colin did not answer. He stopped to think. What could the dwarf want with him for 1 day? He might tell him to do something very hard and very wrong. Oh, Jesus. Perhaps he would make him commit a burglary. That could be done in less than a day. While this conversation was going on, 2 little dwarfs, much smaller than the one with the holly sprig, were crouched behind a mound of earth on which the larger dwarf was standing, and endeavoring, in all sorts of ways, to catch Dora's eye. They had a doll baby, which they held up between them, trying to make her look at it. They seemed unwilling to show themselves boldly, probably because they were afraid of the larger dwarf, but they whispered as loud as they dared.
Oh, little girl, don't you want this doll? It's a splendid one, with wiggly legs and arms. You can have it for just 1 year of your life. Or, if you will be ours for 6 months, you can take it. Look at it. You can have it for just 1 month of your life, or a week, or a short little week.
But neither Dora nor Colin saw or heard these earnest little creatures, and directly Colin looked up and said, No, I won't agree to it for a day.
Well then,
said the dwarf,
I won't be hard on you. About an hour.
Colin thought in an hour he might be made to do something he didn't like at all. Nobody could tell what these dwarves could set a boy to doing, so he said, No, not an hour.
A minute then,
said the dwarf. Colin hesitated. That was not a long time, but he might be made to fire a gun or do something very dangerous in a minute. No, sir, said he.
A second?
Cried the dwarf. I might strike Dora in a second, thought Colin, and he sung out, No, I won't.
Well then, will you take it for nothing?
Asked the dwarf. Oh, yeah, I'll take it for nothing.
Here it is, said the dwarf, and I'm very glad indeed to give it to you.
Well, exclaimed Colin in surprise, you're a curious fellow, but I'm very glad to get the holly. We're ever so much obliged. Yes, indeed, said Dora, and she fairly jumped for joy. The 2 little dwarfs were now fairly frantic in their endeavors to make Dora look at their doll. They They still were afraid to call out, but they whispered as loud as they could.
Oh, ho, ho, little girl, look here. You can have this doll for 1 short week of your life, for a day, for an hour, 1 minute, second, half a second, for a millionth of a second, for the 20 millionth part of a half second, or for nothing at all. You can have it for nothing.
But Dora heard not a word what they said, and never looked at them.
Why are you so glad to give me this holly?
Said Colin to the dwarf.
And if you wanted me to have it, why didn't you give it to me at first? Oh, I couldn't do that. We always have to try to get all the work we can out of the boys we offer that holly to, and I'm glad you didn't make a bargain, because, if you had, I don't know what in the world I should have set you to doing. I offered it to a boy last year, and he agreed to do what I told him for 6 months. He wouldn't engage for longer than that, for his summer holidays would begin at the end of that time, and I know he thought he'd rather work for me than go to school. Well, I had a dreadful time with that boy. After the first week or two, I couldn't think of a thing for him to do. He had done everything I wanted. I would tell him to go and play, and he would come back in an hour or two and say, "Oh, I've done all of the things I've done playing. What shall I do next?" And then I have to shake my fist at him and look as cross as I could, and I could tell him that if he didn't want to go play and stay playing, I would do something dreadful to him. But of course, that sort of thing wouldn't do very long, so I had to work for him until his time was up. It nearly wore me out. I think that if he had agreed for a year, it would have driven me crazy.
What the shit is this story?
But how did you come to have the holly sprig if this boy earned it? Oh, the first thing I told him to do after his bargain was made was to give me back that holly. We have to do that or else we can keep on hiring boys.
We couldn't keep on hiring boys.
Well, I call that cheating,
said Colin.
Yes, indeed,
said little Dora.
I suppose it is,
said the dwarf.
If you look at it in a certain light. But we won't talk about that now. You have the holly sprig, and I have no right to ask you to give it back to me. You can take it home, and I'll never see it again. Hurrah! Goodbye.
What's happening? And he made one jump backward, behind the big tree, and was gone. Colin and Dora now hurried home, very happy indeed, for no such sprig of holly had they ever seen as this which the dwarf had given them. It looked splendidly over the fireplace. The 2 little dwarves ran after them as fast as they could.
Where had we got to?
Wait, where had we got?
Where had we got to?
Said one to the other just as they caught up to Colin and Dora.
We were at nothing. All right, then we won't go back on the bargain.
And they both ran in front of the children, and holding up the doll between them, they called out,
"Little girl, you have this doll for nothing?"
Colin and Dora stopped short. This was truly a most astonishing sight.
"Look at its legs and arms,"
said the larger dwarf.
"See how they wiggle. Oh, you can make it sit down. Will you take it for nothing?"
Dora did not hesitate.
"Yes, indeed,"
she said. Thrusting the doll into her hands, the 2 little dwarfs gave a wild shout and rushed away with the long tails which they had to their bonnets waving in the wind as they ran. The children then hurried home as fast as they could, and when they had told their story and shown their gifts, great was the surprise and delight of everybody, for no one had ever seen such a large-leaved and bright-berried sprig of holly as the one the dwarf gave Colin, or so fine a doll with such remarkably wiggly arms and legs as the one the little dwarves gave Dora. The thing that pleases me most about it all... The thing that pleases me most about it all, said their father, is Colin's steady refusal to make a rash bargain, even for a very short time. Colin, my boy, I think you are to be trusted.
Yes, indeed,
said little Dora, hugging her doll and looking proudly into her brother's face. That's it. That's the story. I don't know what I read. I guess it's a story about not, just not taking what's given you at first. If someone's like, hey, let's make a trade, they're like, no, let's, you're gonna do it for your best interest first. Let's get it at equal ground. But he didn't even do that. Colin just whittled away to the point where the dwarf was like, here, just take this shit. I don't want it. And then he's like, hey, you're smart. And that was it. See, it's not even a good lesson in bargaining. Like, that's not how the real world works. Like, it just so happened that, you know, he's lucky he didn't take anything, or he would have been a slave. Even if he was a slave for, like, you know, what, a second? They'd be like, alright, here you go. 1, okay, you're done. So, I mean, he wouldn't have lost then. I don't know. I don't know, man. Either way, my voice is starting to go. So, thank you for spending your Christmas with Crendor. At least, you know, like 30 minutes of it or however long this is. I don't actually know because I spent a while reading one story that I ended up not using because I was confused. And it was a Yule Lad story, but it was one of those like, forth yonder, and so I slept into the maiden's chamber. And I was like, I can't read this. This is way too like 1898 for me. And then it didn't even get to the Yule Lads after like 5 paragraphs, and I was like, I'm done. But you can probably find it on the internet. Either way, thanks for watching. If you want some more ASMR stuff, check out my ASMR channel in the link in the description. Go subscribe there. Good night, Crendor. And have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. Okay? Okay. See you.